All right. Well, thanks for coming. Thanks for taking some time off of your busy schedules. Well, first things first. First question I ask everybody: how did you guys meet?
Great. You want to take that one?
Sure, I'll start. So we were both attending school, the university, and we had a similar class. We weren't in the same section. It was a class GE, so it had, I don't know, a couple thousand met, every day of the week. But there was a guy that I knew that asked if he could join a study group that we were doing at my apartment. And so I said, yeah. And he said, oh, I'm going to bring my roommate. And I was like, all right, cool. And so he brought John. And so we had a study group, I don't know, 6 to 10 maybe.
Yeah, I would say around that size.
Yeah. And that's how we originally met. And then we did the study group for a couple months. And throughout that time, we realized that we were in the same ward. But we didn't know that because we were in the multicultural ward. So that was, I don't know, like 600 or 700 would show up to a sacrament meeting. And so we didn't even realize that we both had been attending that ward. Because we started in like October, I want to say. So we'd been there since August. And
In the study group.
yeah. Yeah, in the study group.
Well, the thing about the ward, I guess, to that point.
One second. I think I might have not turned on your microphone all the way. All right, try it again.
Hello?
Yeah, that's good. Sorry.
So going back to that point about the ward and the size, and maybe the reason why we didn't know we were in the same ward is that the ward had like 3 or 4 elders quorum and relief societies, and it was in alphabetical order. So if if your last name started with I, then they had the elders quorum from A to I or whatever, and so our last names put us in different groups essentially, because you would do activities according to your relief society and elders quorum, designated alphabetical name. So she was in a different one, so I never had activities with her, and with as we met with the other relief society. So that's kind of it was pretty large in that regard. So
Yeah.
So where was this again?
this was at Brigham Young University.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I don't, because I remember when finding out that he was in the same ward, I was like, I don't ever remember seeing him. So I was trying to remember, and I didn't recall seeing each other.
Yeah, it was
Yeah, it was
large. It was
large.
a lot of people,
Mhm.
and where you sat, it's just there's so many people that were in the congregation, so you never really saw the same person twice a lot.
Right. Yeah, that's a big ward. That's a huge congregation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know how big wards get, but not that big.
Yeah. It was.
Yeah, it was large, but so that's kind of how it all started. It
Yeah.
was through a friend introducing us in a study group, and
Mm-hmm.
it was physical science class. That's the class that we met in. So
Yeah. And the study group.
in the study group of physical science.
So how did you guys start seeing each other and hanging out
Yeah.
more? And
Well, our friend Tyler, he was interested actually in Norma kinda,
Mm-hmm.
and so they think we wanted to try to get them together,
Mm-hmm.
and so we did some group activities, just kind of not study wise, but just like dates, just kind of go out and do stuff and hang out, and we started to get to know each other.
We were always paired up
Yeah. So
with the groups.
and we were
just little by little.
just little by little. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. That's kind of how.
When did you guys decide to start dating?
Maybe after Christmas. We hung out
Yeah,
a lot.
we hung out
In
and-
November, I think, we started hanging out pretty much every day.
She
He'd
started
come
feeling
over.
bad for me because I didn't really have a lot of food at my apartment, and she would feed me a little bit better than I would make ramen.
Is this true?
Yes, but I didn't know it at the time. He just was come over every day in
We
the
always had
afternoon.
food, I guess.
Yeah,
That was
we
nice.
always had food at our apartment, and so he'd always come over and
But they were generous and nice to like, hey, you guys hungry? I'm like, yeah, of course.
yeah. So we hung out, and then we spent Thanksgiving together because he wasn't able to go home. His brother left earlier that week, and so he didn't have a ride home. And my family had a cabin there, and I was going to be spending time there with like my cousins. And so when I
and
found
your aunts and uncles, I
Yeah.
mean, it was
yeah,
your
so when I
family.
figured out that he wasn't going to be able to go home, I was like, you should come hang out at our cabin. I'll be there with my family, and not my parents, but because they lived farther away. And so he spent that time with us, and I think that's the first time we actually spent more time away from university and away from regular college. And I remember feeling at that time that, like, I started to feel a little bit interested in him, more so than like he's fun to hang out with, and like that excitement of
the cabin trip for you.
yeah, just as like I was excited he was going, more so than just like if anybody else was going.
Okay.
Yeah, then I would agree.
It's around the same time.
Yeah, probably around the same time. I mean, we just got to get to know each other more. But I drove you to the cabin over there. I think it was like 2.5 hours or 3 hours away or
Yeah,
something.
it was like
And
an open Logan, Cache
So-
Valley area.
Right.
so it was a few hour drive, and we got to just talk and get to know each other better. And we had already been hanging out, and so there was already some chemistry going on there. But it was a good break, I guess, where we were able to just develop that relationship a little bit more, and that interest probably a little bit stronger too.
And then I think at Christmas when he went home and I went home, I think that's for me when I realized being away from him, because we hung out every day, just as friends. But I think that couple of weeks, it was almost 3 weeks, that I realized that I miss seeing him.
Right.
And so, yeah. And I would look forward to talking to him. It was about a 3-hour difference. And so when I was working, so as soon as I get home, I remember I'd be excited to like call him and see like what he was up to. And so then I realized I was kind of nervous for when we returned, to like how I would like feel or what would happen. Because before there was no expectations really, because we just had fun hanging out. Like we didn't hold hands, we didn't anything like that.
It was friendship.
Total friendship.
You feel the same way?
Yeah.
Or was there like, no, I like her more than she likes me?
I don't know. I mean, I thought it was a closer friendship, probably. But I started definitely around that time starting to develop stronger feelings for her. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
So what was your guys' first date?
Official date? I just remember when he came home, him picking me up and just like being really excited to see him. And then I think it was...
I think after that we went to... You actually took me to Outback.
Did we go to Outback?
Yeah.
I can't remember all the details. See, he has a better memory.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Maybe because it was a good restaurant. And
Well, I think you had like like a gift card or something Outback, and I think it was like on the way back after that.
Yeah.
We stopped at Outback, and so...
Oh, before Christmas?
Uh-huh. No, I mean after, like on the way home from the airport.
Oh, yeah, probably.
So you guys just kept in contact throughout this 3 weeks of separation?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we didn't have cell phones, of course, but
Was it through email?
it was. We didn't have email.
No, we talked, and no, we would just talk on the phone.
Oh,
It was just through
Yeah.
phone conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, we're old school.
yeah, that's fine.
I remember,
technology
like-
wasn't around like that.
Well, I talked
Which
to
was
them
good.
last-
We didn't text or
last,
anything.
or 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
So their relationship was like throughout the 2000s, like early 2000s. So
Yeah.
email was a little new, but they still used it.
Yeah, I could see Mark being up to date on that though.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I remember using email at BYU, but there were little kiosks that you had to go to use your email, because they didn't have, like, laptops weren't really big because you couldn't plug them in anywhere. They didn't have, like, obviously Wi-Fi, and they didn't have a lot of cable networking that you could just plug in, and which just seems so weird, but they didn't in buildings. They had computer labs, but they were open from, like, I don't know, to like 9 at night. And so they had little kiosks, and that was a new thing that they would put up in different areas. And it had like a 5-minute limit. So you could check your email, or you could check. They just were starting to do a lot of things. But they didn't have like the BYU app or anything like that you would check grades on. We would still register. You'd get a catalog that every class had a bunch of digits, and you'd have to call and enter in all the digits to see if they had space. And if you did, it would tell you the computerized system that you got into your class.
If you didn't, you could do a rain check, or you could.
Yeah. And then you start dialing another number really
you
fast.
dial another number really fast.
To try and get in your class.
Yeah, mine's really easy.
Yeah, now you just go on there and you just choose that and put it in a cart or wait list if you're not in.
And you had to be at
I just enter it.
Yeah.
I've never had a problem.
And it was like at midnight, you know, you had to like everyone's on at the same time.
True.
Yeah, based on your credits. And yeah, so I think, but that was good though, because we talked to each other, and I just think there's something to be said of communication.
Right.
It's very different.
I don't want to date you guys, but what year did this take place in?
This is 1997 into 98.
Okay, so
Mhm.
the Christmas of 97 into 98.
Yeah.
Okay, so when did you guys officially start dating, like being official?
That was probably after the Christmas
After
Yeah.
break.
that?
Yeah. Well, after the break, yeah, probably.
I think because when we came back, for me, we were still hanging out a lot, and I don't know. When I'd gone home, I'd kind of had people at home that I had kept in touch with before going to BYU that I kind of said, you know what, I'm like found somebody I really like at my university, and I think he had kind of dated before as well, before we met. And so if you're familiar with BYU culture, like I think in the words and stuff, it can be, some people they really want to meet people. They really want to date. And so I just was like, I'm not going to like chase him around at ward activities or something. So I need to either know kind of where do we stand. Do you want to keep being friends, or do you want to like try dating out? And so I think, I can't remember the exact conversation, but I remember we did talk a little bit about it. And I think I said something along the lines, well then at church on Sunday, because we didn't even sit together all the time on Sundays because we'd go with friends. But I said, let's sit together and you can hold my hand. And then,
You said that to him?
yeah. Yeah, because I was like, and then like I don't have to tell people like, oh, John and I are dating, or, you know, it's just, people would just know.
Yeah. How'd you take that?
I was okay with that. Yeah, I mean, seemed pretty natural.
Was it surprising at all? Was it straightforward like that?
I mean, it was maybe a little, but also in the same hand, it was like, yeah, I mean, if we're going to try to work out a relationship, we should probably try to work out a relationship,
Right.
you know? So what it kind of, I mean, made sense to me is if we are spending this time together, and if we are, you know, if I'm liking her and she's liking me, then let's see what happens and what kind of gossip is created at church.
Yeah. Yeah, that happens all the time.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
yeah.
singles
Singles
wards.
wards, yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
So how long did you guys date until you got married?
It happened pretty fast.
I mean, you got married that April.
No, like 3 months later?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It did. But I think because we were friends for so long, and sometimes I think when
I guess
there's
long
not
enough.
well, at BYU,
Per-
that's a
per
long
BYU
time.
guidelines.
Like, because we really,
Never BYU.
it is, and the fact that we spent every day together and we were comfortable with each other. And I think sometimes when you're just friends and hanging out, you don't have expectations, or you don't act differently sometimes than you might if right off you realize I like somebody, I'm going to start dating them.
Right.
And so I think we were pretty natural with each other. So by the time we started dating, I didn't feel like anything changed, other than I felt like there was a purpose to us going out, more so like seeing, do I really like this, you know, John, this guy? And so yeah.
Well, that's kind of how it went down. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was a pretty, I guess, I mean, it was a long, what you would say, engagement per BYU standards, of course,
Right.
for 3 months. I mean, that was a long engagement. So,
So when did you guys get engaged?
in January, I mean,
Oh, like right off
yeah,
the bat.
I mean, probably towards the end of January.
Towards the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
But
like,
yeah.
hey, you gotta hold my hand, and then 1 month later, hey, we gotta get married.
Well, I was, she's gonna tell me I got to hold her hand. I'm gonna say, you're gonna be my wife then. Right? I mean,
That's kind of how it was.
Really?
Yeah, like he had a brother that had just gotten married and
Just
that
the summer
summer,
before,
right
yeah.
before BYU started, and
Yeah.
he came home just a few weeks before the semester started from his mission. We didn't know each other, and so I think that. And I think we both come from families that have pretty strong marriages. So I think when you feel comfortable and you know it's right, like why wait is kind of what we thought. And so, and like you said, maybe because I said hold my hand, but I just remember we never talked about getting married. We just hung out a lot, and then we started in January, like dating, and he would hold my hand. I think maybe he'd kissed me once. There was not hardly any. He was always a gentleman, very. I don't know, just fun. And just, so then it was on a Sunday, and he just, after church, we were hanging out at my apartment, and he said something along the lines of, hey, I've been talking to my brother a little bit about when he knew he wanted to marry his wife, because they were, newlyweds and stuff. He goes, and after that, I just know that's how I feel. And
I'd like for you to be my wife.
Yeah, that's what he said. And I was
Dang.
like... And yeah, and I just said, okay, like, and so then I think I was like, maybe you should call my dad.
Did you know her family at all?
No.
No, he'd met my sister was
Well, I
at
met your
BYU.
dad, I guess, and your sister was at BYU.
Yeah, she was finishing her last semester there. But like I said, we'd just kind of been friends during that semester.
I met your
she
dad
graduated.
in the fall when he come over.
He came to drive my sister home because she was graduating and to help her move her stuff. So you met my dad like maybe once or twice.
Once, yeah, I think.
But back then we were still just friends, so it's not like I was like, oh, this is John, or like he was just a friend that I was hanging out with, and so my dad met him. And I had never met any of his family but the two brothers that he had attending school at BYU.
Right. Yeah, that's something.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
I think we just decided in January, and we originally planned for a late summer wedding, but we just decided not to wait. We got married the last day of finals. And it was mainly because we couldn't get an appointment any other time for like 2 weeks because the temples were booked
to schedule
with weddings.
Throughout the whole summer. Yeah, it's like crazy
So
busy.
we're like, okay, we'll do, it was the middle of the week, like
I think it was a Thursday
2 o'clock or
Yeah.
something. It was a weird time, and it was the only appointment we found.
Was there an official proposal, or was that just...
Yeah, we made it official. I mean, probably a week or so later.
Yeah, but we've always been, I feel like, pretty simple because we're comfortable with each other. Like, I've never been one that needs fanfare or anything.
There was no kneeling or anything?
Yeah, when I had the ring, I made it official, and I kneeled and
How'd you do that? How'd it go?
pulled over the car and got out of the car and kneeled in front of the temple and
Really?
But we kind of knew because I remember we went and looked
We
at
knew.
rings together, and I was just kind of always raised that you just work together at everything.
Yeah.
And so I remember us going and looking at rings and us just being realistic about, because we were young, 20s, 21 he was, and just what can we afford? And we kind of chose things out and started paying on them together. And then so I kind of had an idea because we'd paid off the rings together. And so then he was able to get the ring. And so that's when he made it like official, because we had paid off our rings together.
Yeah, but we parked near the Provo Temple and got out and it was just kind of like one of those things just on the top end of the Provo Temple, not for an MTC, but but yeah, we kind of made light of it a little bit, but I did officially kneel and ask for her hand in marriage, and so, and she still said yes, so that was good.
Yep, we hadn't changed
And
my
I've been
mind.
awkward, like, I was like, yeah, enough time now to think about it, I guess. So it's either going to be a hard yes or, a hard no, or a yes. So, but yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that is, overall is probably a little different, unorthodox, perhaps, manner in which, we approached it, but it worked for us, and that's kind of how we've just kind of established our marriage, just working together on stuff.
Yeah, the really interesting and beautiful thing about doing these interviews so far, you guys are, I think, are the fifth couple that I've interviewed, and everyone's had a different proposal story.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you think of like the in the moment, kneeling down, everything's perfect, and it never happens that way.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. So it worked out.
Awesome. Well, is there anything that surprised you guys about being married that you weren't expecting?
That's a good question. I mean, you're never ready. I mean, it's just like you think you have an idea, and you're going into something that you've made a commitment to, and I mean, just working things together. Surprising. I mean, you never know how kids are gonna, affect your relationship, or I mean, there's so many turns and twists, and trying to get things taken care of for the house, or for the apartment, or for your family. And I don't know. I mean, surprised me. I mean, that's a I never felt like surprised, I guess, for me at least.
John's a very calm. He has a very peaceful nature about himself. And that doesn't surprise me, because he's very, I think for me, there's been times where I've been stressed about different things.
I think she's been more surprised than me.
Not necessarily surprised, but definitely, stressful situations or experiences you have. But he's always been very calm and been able to say, I know it will work out. And so he's very calm. I think for me, probably the only one of the things was just not realize how difficult and how much work you do put into marriage, and that no matter your experience, everybody has things. We were married really young. We both had a couple years left of college, and then we had children right away. Not planned, but that's just what happened. And so I didn't realize when I was 20, you just think you're going to get married and everything's going to be lovely, and that's all they talk about is, get married in the temple, and this idea that everything after that is just, walking on clouds kind of thing. And so being in school, I think those things that were challenges for us have really helped us to become really close, because we had to juggle schedules, we had to juggle work schedules, and we didn't spend as much time together as I thought maybe being married, because we were both school and work. But I think it brought us really close, because we came to understand each other, like the goals that both of us had, and we both were able to graduate, because we supported each other in that. And we talked about everything. And so when we decided to maybe make choices and maybe go without certain things, or him going on to grad school, I think I just didn't realize it takes a lot of communication and a lot of ideals that you might think are going to happen, that it can be totally different, and being that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, definitely there's a level of compromise, that goes into it, and but we've been able to balance that out. But early on, I knew, we kind of had expectations for what we wanted to accomplish, school wise, and where we wanted to be, and so so we supported each other. We didn't think having a kid at BYU should hold either one of us back from graduating, and we're able to manage it, with having Antonio at BYU, and being able to work through that, and I'd go to work, come back, go to school, and then she'd drive, or I'd drive, and then she'd walk with Antonio in the stroller to campus, and then I'd take him and she'd go to class, then
he lived on campus.
Then I would,
Antonio did.
hang out with Antonio and study, and then she'd take him, and some of her classes she had to take Antonio, and the professors were cool with that. And then sometimes I had to take Antonio on my assignments and things like that, and my mentors and professors were okay as well. So it was just a balance, knowing the schedule and knowing what we needed to do. And some nights were longer than others, having a kid and working. And the good thing is, we knew early on as well, raising our kids was the other thing that we wanted to try to have, MaLeesa raise the kids at home and not have to put them in daycare. And so that, for me, I had to be the one working through, different hours and making, the rent payments and those things, and providing the insurance and for the family. So all those responsibilities, I knew if we could do it and manage it, that, or, and we knew going into it that our kids would be, greatly blessed by having, their mom raise them. So that was just something that for us was just a priority. And so we worked at that, and we found ways to make it happen, and so, and it's obviously that worked for us, and everyone's different, but for us, we felt that was important. And so it was good that way, and challenging. It wasn't easy for either one of us. Her being at home and then me having to work, to make the bills and things like that. So both of us had our stresses, just from different aspects of where we're at in our marriage and what we had to do and accomplish. So, but I think early on, understanding and communicating kind of the direction we'd like to go, with each other and with the family, and that definitely helped us just be on the same page.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, my last question, you guys kind of answered it already, but is there any advice that you would give a couple who might be struggling with their marriage or that are preparing to get married? Do you have any advice for those couples?
Yeah, I mean, I think MaLeesa, she mentioned, it takes work, right? I think understanding that it's not easy, right? You do marry your friend, you do marry the love of your life, and but even that, there's challenges in that, and you get to know each other, and you get to know each other's weaknesses, right? And so I think understanding that it takes work. I think the other thing is that it takes compromise. I think sometimes you just got to leave the ego at the door, so to speak, and just be able to work things out and understand that either you don't always have to be right, or there's other ways to think about a solution, and just know compassion, and just love and just being able to love and have compassion, because there'll be some hard times and there'll be some challenges, and it'll take a little bit more love from you than what you would have thought you had, or a little bit more compassion to think through certain situations that are triggering you to be upset and things like that. So, and patience, patience goes a long ways, just in general overall in a relationship. So important, because if you're in a marriage, or if you're in a relationship and you make that commitment, I think, I make the commitment to make the commitment. I don't make it to kind of be hesitant and be like, I'm gonna back out if this ever happens. So it's just one of those things where it does take that type of commitment level, but a lot of patience and understanding.
Yeah.
What would you say?
I would say communication is key, and I think a lot of times we think we are good at communicating, but for me, I learned that a big part of communicating is listening, And John is very, like I said, he's very easygoing. And so I think in the beginning of our marriage, there were a lot of things that probably he never spoke up on that I could have done maybe differently or been more understanding. And I think later when he was in grad school and there was just a lot of stress because we had 2 little kids and it was just crazy times, good times, but really crazy times. I think that's when I started to realize and be more sensitive to, because I was so caught up with all the little kids and the demands of kids and just that change of being at home full time. And I didn't sometimes realize that he had as much stress as I did, but differently. And that both of us, there was not one that was more important. And so I think finally he started to be a little bit more open and communicate, because he's always been a peacemaker. He's always putting others' needs ahead. And he grew up in a family with a lot of siblings, and it was just me and my sister. So I think we had different and just growing up experiences. And so my sister had graduated by the time I was starting high school. And so there's a lot of times it was just me, and I just kind of was used to just doing things the way that I wanted because I was at home alone with no siblings. And so I think just being open and honest, because sometimes we can feel guilty when we want to say something or we feel a certain way. But if we don't find a way to share it with our spouse, and it doesn't have to be hurtful, but it can be hard to hear the truth sometimes. But I think if you don't say anything, it's just going to build up inside of both of you. And I feel like you can't get past certain things if you're not willing to hear difficult things and you're not willing to say difficult things. And I think you have to involve the Lord, because sometimes you don't know how to say it. But I know that if you involve the Lord, he'll help you say it, and he can help prepare that conversation so that the person you're talking to can hear it in a way that they understand what you're saying. Mm-hmm. And so I think the communication is really key, and just learning how to see the best in someone, in the sense that they didn't mean to hurt my feelings if they did. They're just trying to be honest about something. And I think that's hard for all of us.
Yeah, and the other thing I would add probably is just, I think I mentioned this, having some goals or priorities that you make as a couple, and things that you want to accomplish as a couple, and work at that, and adjust it. We've adjusted ours, throughout the years. So we've been married 24 years now. And, but yeah, those priorities and goals, they change, just with, different ways in which, life comes at you. And so some things you just have to redirect.
And appreciation, because I think the longer you're married, you don't realize that there's a lot of little things your spouse does that you just kind of forget that are special, or that they do something nice for you. Like John often will.
Let's go on date night.
It doesn't have to be big though, because like he'll wake up often in the morning, he makes us shake after he works out or something, and I'll come downstairs, I'm rushing to work, and he'll like do something simple like make me a shake or have like my little lunch all cut up and ready. And I think those little things, like sometimes we can get so busy that we forget to show appreciation. And when we forget to see the simple acts of love or service or kindness, we then start to be more negative of what we think's not happening that maybe should be in our minds. And so I think just being appreciative and always remembering, like when you were dating, you always saw the good things in them and were, oh, thank you so much, and you were kind. And I think it's important to remember that, to still treat each other in that way.
I'm glad this is being recorded.
I didn't say I was perfect. I said I was learning.
For the world to see.
Yes.
To witness.
Yes. So I just think doing small things and learning how that person receives love, because I think me and John have definitely learned he's a gift giver. And I'm not, but he loves to receive gifts. And so I've learned, okay, I need to think about what's something that he would be totally surprised about, and that, would show him that I've been thinking about him. I've been planning this. And for me, I'm like, just have the house cleaned. I'm a service person. And so I'm like, and so I've had to learn to recognize, how does he feel, or recognize that I love him. And it's not how normally I would. So in the beginning of marriage, I think I would do things the way that I would want something.
Yeah, and that's how everyone is.
Yeah, and I think we just have to really look, how do they feel? How are they going to know I appreciate them?
Right.
And it takes more work, but it's worth it.
Perfect. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, guys, for
Yeah.
like I said, taking some time out of your busy schedules and talking to me about your marriage. Yeah, this is great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
I learned a little bit about you guys. I don't feel like I know you guys too well.
All right. There you go.
Yeah, but thanks again, and thank you everybody for listening.
All right.